Warning. Evacuate. Warning.
Old people. Best thing to get rid of old people is a virus. They're clogging up the hospitals, those old people. They're taking all the pensions. They're sucking the young people dry. It's time for them to go. So says society. You might say that we live in a prison, and I think that I'd probably agree with you. But you'd have to say, what is that prison? Where are the walls? Well, the walls are thoughts. And where do the thoughts come from? They come from education. And where does this supposed education come from? It comes from school, apparently, and university. What it really means is that the better educated you are, the better at holding up those thoughts which create the prison walls of our society. So we've got to have a look at education. So how does education, pandemics and old people all link together? Well, hold on, I'm going to get there. Those people with the apparent best education or the best schooling, they're the people that get the top jobs. Those top jobs are the people that solidify the invisible walls of our society, or prison, if you think it's a prison. Those walls are like energetic walls. They're like bits of energy cells that keep everybody in their place. And you need to have a pyramid and a hierarchy in order to maintain that structure. The people that are supposed to maintain that structure need to be programmed the best. And that better type of programming, or more profound type of programming, is a form of what we call education. But programming and education is not the same thing. Doctors are highly programmed people, most of them. Doctors do not understand where disease comes from. They don't understand about the energetic problems of disease, or how disease is caused energetically. Chinese doctors, through acupuncture and traditional medicine, have a much better idea of where illness and disease comes from. But because we in the West have lost our cosmovision, or we've had it replaced by a Christian cosmovision, which wasn't our original cosmovision, we therefore, because we don't have those foundations and that understand, we have, if you like, become lost. We're like in a boat that has had its anchor cut. Part of education, well, education is many things. There are different aspects of education. Education can be knowledge, theology, philosophy, psychology, experience. Education is the interconnectedness of things. It's being able to see links, because through the links of the different aspects, you get a picture. If you compartmentalize everything, which they do in school, you chop the picture up and then you don't know what the picture is unless you put the picture back together, which is what people and children need to do when they leave school, or during school, better, is that you need to start trying to put the different subjects together to understand how is maths and history linked, how is history and art linked, how is art and biology linked, because they're all linked at the end of the day. It's just basically one circle which has been abstracted into little bits, chopped up, put on a school menu and fed to you like a chicken in a force-fed factory. The old people, they are just extensions of us in the future. They are part of the manifestation of the system. Is an old person more educated than a young person? Maybe, maybe not, but they do have something. They've got more experience. But experience on itself doesn't equate to education, because the fantasy is that old people are supposed to be wise people. Everyone wants Gandalf. Every white person wants Gandalf as their grandpa. All the Asians want Lao Tzu as their grandpa. The Muslims want Remy as their grandpa. There's always, the Greeks want Socrates as their grandpa. Old people are supposed to have this archetypal wisdom, but it doesn't seem to be apparent in society anymore. The old people are supposed to be the protectors, the guardians of culture. What culture? Culture's disappearing. Where's culture disappearing to? Culture's being gotten rid of through multiculturalism and technology. We're being told bit by bit to lose our culture. If we don't have our culture, we lose our roots. If we lose our roots, we're in a boat without an anchor. Who are the people that are supposed to be looking after the culture? The old people. Do the old people have the culture? No, they don't. They've got experience, but without education, and as I said, education is many, many different things, then you're not going to be able to be a pillar or a protector or a guardian of those foundations of society and culture. Does experience help us? Yes, it does. But if you don't have a cosmovision, that means that if your perception doesn't have a foundation, or it doesn't have a point, then you're not going to understand your existential position in society. If you don't understand your existential position in society, then the way that you are looking at the world, the position that you're looking at the world, is not going to be steady. If the steadiness doesn't exist, then your vision of life or the path is going to be a little bit wonky. So your foundations need to be really strong, and foundations are aligned in cosmovision. But in today's society, we don't have cosmovision. We don't teach our students about our culture, our stories, our fairy tales, about Woden or Odin, or Jesus and Christianity is the next best thing that we've got. But that's the state version of culture, which gets imposed onto us, which isn't our culture. The old people are supposed to be there for the young people to help them navigate life, to make their life a bit more easy, to lessen the suffering, to give them a little bit of an outsider's point of view to their life of someone that's already gone through the same experiences. And to a point, an old person can do that. But it's going to have a limit if their perception of reality is coming from a position which isn't, or doesn't have a cosmovision, or the cosmovision is something which has been programmed onto you or into you by the state or allowed by the state. I would say Christianity and religions are part of programming that the state allows in order to obfuscate a clear and precise cosmovision of reality. If you have a good cosmovision, then you have a good starting point. And if you have a good starting point and you know what the future is, then you can see the line. But if your position is not, if that's the real position and this is the position that you're coming from, that's the goal, then your line's going to be out of kilter. So it's very important to question what the cosmovision is that you've been given in order to set yourself a straight line. But you're programmed and told not to do that. So no one, or very few people, actually do it. The young are being told to turn against the old. And we have Greta Thunberg, who is leading the protests against them. Why are we being told to hate the old? Well, because they've left the environment in a bad shape, because the house prices have gone up, because there's war. We're being told not to trust old people, and especially not to trust the older people. The older people are living what, until 65? They're taking up all the beds, they're taking up all the resources, and they are Christmas fire stokers, they're chair warmers, they're useless eaters. That's the vision that we want. That's the vision that is being sold to the young people of the old people. Or the pandemic of viruses that we have in 2020 is eliciting, it's opening up how it is that the system is actually thinking, or what its intention is, to old people. Hyped by the media. The media is saying that the hospitals are full of old people in beds slowly dying or being ill, taking away resources. The hospitals are turning away old people. People over 65 no longer wanted. Go and die at home. Go and die in silence. Go and be British. Now that is senicide. Senicide is when you get old people to die because they're no longer of any use for society. Who used to do that? The Inuit. The Inuit used to put them on a bit of ice and send that ice into the sea with a bit of fish and chips, and then let them die in the cold. I'm told that hypothermia is quite a nice way to die, but I prefer not to test it out, if you know what I mean. Because even if I did find the answer out, I still wouldn't be able to tell you, now would I? So there is a state form of mild senicide going on. Too old, you're not going to get treated in the hospital. We want the young people here because they're the people that are going to be producing money for the system to create those invisible walls in order for it to create a much stronger prison using the technology that we have. In Italy, 23% of the population are over 65. In the world, it's about 8%. The projection by 2050 is going to be about 17% people over 65. People over 65, they become useless to society. They become useless because they're no longer able to work. And on another level, if they don't have that cosmology and vision and wisdom that we think they should have, like Gandalf, Lao Tzu, Reni, and the other masters like Socrates, then, you know, what actually is the point of the old people? Okay, they can babysit, but our society has been structured where the old people no longer live with us. Some young people secretly are thinking, I can't wait until my parents die so that they can release some of that money that they're hoarding so I can spend it on the stuff that I really need to spend it on. Like buying a house, because I can't buy a house because our forefathers didn't put enough planning permission in, and they went and bought many, many houses and properties and shot the house prices up. That stopped us, the young people, from being able to get the money, which created more wealth and money for the older people. So you can sort of see the resentment there. What does this show? It shows that people are trained by school to fit requirements of society through programmation. The people that have become educated, that do have wisdom, the society doesn't want those people, because those people, like what Socrates did, then go and tell the youth to be free, which sets the youth against the state, which causes rebellion and problems. If old people are to be a benefit to the society, they need to be imbued with something that benefits the society. Part of that would be them being guardians and protectors of the culture that we live in, a culture which is slowly being disintegrated around us. They need to be people that have experience, that have understanding, that have education, that have an ability to help us get out of the problems that we're in. But because old people are just an extension of the problem, then it's going to be very difficult to find a solution for this. Old people are needed for society. Old people are needed to guard the stories and the cultures that we have, to create roots for our culture so that we don't get lost. I therefore ask people to educate properly, and so that when they become old, they can be not a burden to society, but actually help to advance it and keep it safe. Thank you very much.